What's important is slowly building yourself up and building your body up. When I first started, I went into running and just went so hard at the start. I just wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying it. I had sore legs, everything. I realized what you need to do is pull it right back. So slow it down and build up to some pace. So a really good session for anyone starting out is doing came to about 4,000 meters of elevation. So it was really high, going up and down mountains. And I reckon I saw my life flash in front of me 3 or 4 times that day. And also I didn't really trust the Bali medical system if something did happen. That's kind of why I started running. So I went on Big Brother and then I came off Big Brother, and there was a year in between recording the show and releasing the show. And I came off the show and I was a bit lost in terms of what I wanted to do with my job. I didn't know what the show was going to bring. So I just started going for runs around an oval to clear my head. It does suck seeing particularly young men are struggling so much mentally. Their first response is to go to a doctor and get a pill. I feel like in the hustle and grind culture as well, it's kind of, you're given a badge of honor for sleeping less. You'll be so much more productive if you sleep well.
Welcome to the Out of Interest podcast, everybody. We haven't done a pod in a while. You guys see it every week, but me and Muzz have been a bit rusty. As you can see, my hair's all over the place. My barber's closed shop. I don't know where he is, but hopefully I can get a hold of him soon. But we've been traveling a bit. And today's guest is he's a form of traveling man. And we fly, this guy runs. Right. Louis Phillips, welcome to the Adam Interest podcast, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm very well. Better now I've seen you guys.
Nice
feeling great. Excited for the podcast. And glad I could lock you guys down because apparently you've been traveling heaps lately.
Oh, we travel a lot. We're traveling in the next couple of days as well. I told you before the podcast started, my first question was going to be, how do I pronounce your name, Louis or Louis? You answered that. My second question was going to be, did you run here?
I'm not sweaty enough to have ran here, but I ran this morning. I did.
Ran this morning?
Yeah, a little bit of a track session with my friends. So every Tuesday, me and my mates go to Olympic Park, just where Collingwood Footy Club train, and do some laps around the outside of it. It's a great way to start the week.
How did that running passion come? I don't understand how people get into running. I don't get it.
I find that it's an acquired taste.
It's a very acquired taste.
Some people get it,
and
some of us just can't do it. It's not for a lack of physical ability. It's for me the boredom gets boredom. I can run a treadmill. I am bored out of my mind. You can play any video, listen to any song, do anything. I can't just on the spot. It's the same thing in front of me. I'm just doing the same thing in I could not do it.
Yeah.
That's why he goes with his friends, Mazza. It's a gossip session.
Exactly.
I don't know. But then you're huffing and puffing along the way. How do you have a chat? All that kind of stuff.
The chatting stops pretty quick. Yeah.
We've had Peter Bowl on the podcast, obviously Olympian and everything else. And you look at him every day on Instagram, is some reel of him running. I was like, bro, come on, how do you do this every single day? You get up and with a smile, he's got this huge smile, and he's running. You're nutcase, man, how you do it?
Especially him, he'd find it easy though. It'd be so easy for someone like Peter Bowl. But no, I agree. I started out like that where I couldn't really stand it, and I was just doing it to challenge myself. But it does get easier the more you do it, obviously. But it's a lot to do with heart rate and stuff. Once your heart rate starts to come down, it becomes really enjoyable. And then you start looking for those endorphins as well. So when you first start running, you do a 4K run and you feel incredible after it. It's really addictive.
What did you say when you first start 4K run?
Oh, well, yeah, thereabouts. I'd had a bit of a sporting
warm-up for these guys.
But I totally get you. And I suppose that's my job in general, is trying to get people to do as much running as possible.
You know, in and around running, there are all these fads around. You need to run on a soft surface, otherwise it's bad for your joints. Don't run on the treadmill because it's coarse for your joints. You're the running expert. Tell me, what should a person do when it comes to running? Is track work the best? Is road running the best? Is grass running the best? What works?
Yeah, I think a mixture of all is really good. What's important is slowly building yourself up and building your body up. A lot of people, and me for one of them, is when I first started, I went into running and just went so hard at the start. I just wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying it. I had sore legs, sore muscles, everything. And I realized what you need to do is pull it right back. So slow it down and build up to some pace. So a really good session for anyone starting out is doing a walk-jog mix. So a minute of walking into a minute of jogging, and then do that 10 times. That's a start. Instead of just going straight into a run, and it gives your body the chance to build up and build the correct muscles which it needs to support your body to do the running.
And my this is a personal question. It's more like, I mean, every time I go gym, I mean, I stopped for a while, for a few months now, as you could see. But like,
You're looking great.
I every time I go gym, right, a lot of people say, oh, don't worry about, cardio, just go lift the weights, blah, blah. I don't believe in that, right? I always start off on the treadmill,
Nice.
get the heart rate going. And for me, I'm always like, when I always start walking and then I run a little, what you said, I do that. But for me, my question is, does speed matter when you're running? Like, does that affect anything? Does it get your, I don't know, your stamina up there quicker? Like, does the speed really matter in all this running stuff?
Yeah.
That part I'm very confused about.
Yeah, I'm not a sports scientist, just before I go into this. So any kind of sports exercise scientist listening to this, forgive me, but I'll do my best to explain this. Essentially, you have two kinds of fitness. It's aerobic and anaerobic. So aerobic fitness is like that kind of slower, long, low heart rate kind of stuff, like running a marathon. Anaerobic is like sprinting. It's what you do to train for soccer, train for footy. It's 100 meters, sprinting as fast as you can. It's height. So if you need to train both of those to be kind of collectively fit, if that makes sense. So one does one thing, the other does another. Like, they're both important, I suppose. But I think there's good science and evidence to back that, like, the aerobic fitness, so your lower heart rate, slower stuff, is what's really good for your body, particularly longevity and particularly for your heart.
Right.
But like the answer, like, they're both good.
Right. And I was scrolling on TikTok. It was trending at one point. I probably saw it. I'm not sure. But people were giving, I mean, everyone gives advice for fitness these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And one of the biggest thing that was trending was inclining your...
The gradient.
Increase
the gradient.
inclining
Yeah,
it and just
yeah.
walk, and it's better than running and blah, 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 blah. Is that like... What do you?
I
what's your
have no
thoughts
idea.
on
I
that?
haven't done much on the treadmill. I go outside. I'd prefer to run outside.
Outside.
Yeah. I think it's just nice to be outside. I have no idea about treadmill running,
Right.
to be honest. But I'd imagine, I've heard there is a slight gradient that you can put the treadmill on where it's effectively like walking outside or going for a walk, because I think if it's on a level kind of plane, you're kind of getting helped by the treadmill, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
We'll find it out together.
Because you see people in the gym, right? They put it up to such a high
So high,
gradient that they
maximum.
can't run there on their own. So they're holding the thing and they're running.
They're
I'm
climbing.
like, what good is that, mate? Come on. Like,
Have
your
you
legs
tried
are doing-
that? When you hold the
yeah.
treadmill,
What happened?
it's so much easier. And when you
So it's a
let
cop
go,
out.
oh
You're
my.
pulling your body up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the massive difference. And every time I see someone do that, I'm like, get
Yeah,
out of here.
it's a cheat- it's a cheat code.
Absolute cheat code. Does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Weird. Another one about running is that you see in a lot of these, let's say the boxing movies that you watch and all that kind of stuff, you see that they're preparing for a fight and they'll be running at a high altitude. Well, altitude. A lot of the AFL footballers go to parts of the world where high altitude training and all that kind of stuff. How much of a difference does that make? Like, you see all these videos of Cristiano Ronaldo running with an oxygen mask and all that kind of stuff. Is that all just sciencey, cosmetic stuff, or does it actually make a difference?
Again, not a scientist, so forgive me. But from what I've heard, it's an acute difference. So, like, if you're training, let's say you have a marathon coming up, if you train in an altitude room or at altitude for like the last 2 weeks of your training block, it will help. It makes a difference to your body's ability to use the oxygen inside your blood, etc. But I think if you do that over 3 months, the returns are pretty diminishing. So altitude training is good, but for any normal person, like, just stick to getting outside, I think is the trick.
Yeah.
What's the longest distance you've run?
Longest distance I've run is, I think, 60 kilometers. I did an ultra marathon in Bali, and that was cool. It was good fun. It also sucked at the same time.
I could imagine.
Yeah, ultra running is like a bit of a different one. It's I'm not that keen on it. It's like, why do you need to go that far? And it's
So why'd you
long
do it
and
then?
slow. Well, just tick it off, tick the box, and then I was like, okay, I don't need to do that again.
So 60 kilometers Bali, was it like mountainous?
Yeah,
up,
it
down,
was.
up, down?
So I was in Mount Batua, which is a fair way out of Bali, or out of like the main spot. And it was, I think, I came to about like 4,000 meters of elevation. So it was really high.
Right.
And we were going up and down mountains. And I reckon I saw my life flash in front of me like 3 or 4 times that day. And also, I didn't really trust the Bali medical system if something did happen, but managed to get
I
through.
could imagine.
Yeah.
I could imagine.
The funny
I
part of the
don't
world.
envision me and Mazza doing that anytime
Yeah, would
soon.
you guys ever do something like that? Like a physical,
If
like
we were
a
in
marathon
shape,
or a
I
half
think
marathon?
it'd be pretty cool. How short is a half marathon?
21.1
That's
kilometers.
too much for us, I reckon.
That's fair.
The
It's a long
longest
way.
I did was, I remember a few years ago we had the Melbourne Marathon. So as a company, the Hijaz company, we were like, oh, you know what? We had a few health nuts back in those days who were working over here.
Nutcases.
They're not here anymore.
Yeah, get
Says
rid of them.
But they pushed the company leadership to say, look, you know what? It's a good team building activity. Let's get out there. And we had, a whole team that subscribed to this Melbourne Marathon.
I
Went
didn't.
along.
I did not do that.
I got roped
Stuck
into it.
strong.
I went along. A fair few of the staff cut corners, cut the course,
fair.
ended up there, got their little medal of participation award, whatever it was. Some went the completely wrong way. They went from a 5-kilometer run to a 25-kilometer circuit, and they went somewhere else. But I ended up doing, I think it's the shortest distance that was there. I think 5 or something Ks or whatever it was. I don't know what time it took me, but I get what you mean. Like when you do it, you feel pretty chuffed about
Feel
it.
incredible after.
Yeah, you're like, okay, you actually, health-wise, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And mentally, you're like, you know what? No, okay,
just
I can
did
actually
that.
do this. I actually do that. Like 5 kilometers is...
Did you run?
Yeah.
The whole way?
I had a running mate.
I don't believe him,
No,
myself.
I ran with Pete. Ask him. I had a running mate the whole way. Because there's one guy over here who's a
Yeah.
serial, Ali knows him, where he does as well. Runs, bikes, the whole life.
Everything.
Fitness fanatic.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, you know what? If I had him sort of coaching me through this, I should be okay. I probably held him back and ruined his times.
Ah, well.
But you know what? As a favor to me, he's like, you know what? Let's do this together. And I got through about probably 4 Ks relatively unscathed. I actually managed to keep up with him. I was reasonably
Yeah.
okay. The last kilometer, you need a bit of a push and a
Hurts
bit
a
of
bit
an
the
encouragement.
last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's also your mind sort of tiring and saying, look, you know what? I'm almost there, almost there, almost there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
when you actually do it.
the feeling you get after is like nothing else. That
Yeah.
People always, if you could put that into like a drug, everyone would take
yeah.
it because it's just like it's so incredible. But it's trying to like, my job as someone who makes content, I suppose, on running is just trying to like get people to that stage because the first month or 2 months is really difficult. But then once you're off and racing, like once you've figured out, a few tips and a few different tricks to make it not hurt so much, it makes a world of a difference. And then you become a runner for life.
Yeah. In today's world, and I know we've got the disclaimer about the fact that none of us are scientists and we're talking about this as we go along, but in today's world where there's such a big focus on people's mental well-being and particularly men's health, men's mental health and all that kind of stuff, I feel, and I'm keen to get your perspectives on this as well, is that a lot of our mental challenges can genuinely be addressed by just living a very healthy lifestyle like that. Your diet, your workouts. Like, a lot of people are hooked on their phones for their dopamine hits. You get a decent dopamine kick out of doing something really good in the gym or having a really good running session, whatever it is. The endorphins, all that chemical release that your body is craving. These things can actually be the catalyst for that. And you can actually inadvertently solve a lot of your challenges.
Oh.
Is that what you've seen?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's kind of why I started running. So I went on Big Brother and then I came off Big Brother and there was a year in between recording the show and releasing the show. And I came off the show and I was a bit like lost in terms of what I wanted to do with my job. Like, I didn't know what the show was going to bring. So I just started going for runs around an oval to like clear my head, also for health. And like, as we said before, you feel great from it. And I did that purely to clear my head. So it does suck seeing, in this world, particularly young men are like struggling so much mentally and their first response is to go to a doctor and get a pill. It's like, well, hang on, let's start with like, what are you eating? How processed are your foods, which is probably a great point to start. And then what about fitness? What about your sleep times? Like, are you going to bed at midnight and waking up at 5 a.m.? It's just not enough sleep. So there's so many things that people can look into and correct. And I get it. It would be tough, listening to someone like myself who's pretty much my whole life is built around like how I train and then like the business that I run. So I can kind of mold my life how I want to. If you had to get up every day and go into work, like listening to someone like me, you'd be like, piss off. Like, you don't have a real
Easy for you
job.
to say.
Yeah, easy for you to say. But if you can, give yourself that time of eating well and training properly, it makes all the difference in your mind for sure.
You make the point about sleeping, right? I don't know if you guys have seen this on Netflix, but there's this new doco series on the
How come
starting.
you know every new doco, my God? Every day is like coming to a new
I
doco.
follow sports doco. I love them. I love the genre.
Yeah, great.
And there's starting 5, right? So that's on they've got LeBron James, 5 NBA players, NBA players, and they're tracking their season last year, and they've got an episode specifically on LeBron, and it's like, the amount of sleep this guy gets to recover. He takes a 2-hour midday nap every single day to get his body to recover. And here I am. I'm like, you're lying in bed, TikToking and Instagramming
Yeah.
until 12:31 a.m. and you got to wake up in the morning 5, 6. I'm getting nowhere near enough rest. Diet's a sham. And all they were glued to a screen, typing away on our phones, mucking around. And then we look at these elite sports people, like, because they have a fitness guy and they've got a health guy and a diet guy, and that's why they're healthy. No, it's not, man. They're just disciplined. They've figured that my body needs to be taken care of, and this is what I need to do to actually recover.
I feel like in the hustle and grind culture as well, it's kind of, you're given a badge of honor for like sleeping less, and I'm just working so hard. Like I'm working.
I'm productive.
I'm just always going. It's like, well, you'll be so much more productive if you sleep well. And sleep's such a big one as well for fat loss. Like your body can lose fat a lot quicker if you're getting the correct amount of sleep, and a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So it's like, sleep is the catalyst for so many things. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the podcast with, I think it's Michael Walker, Andrew Walker. Forgot his name. Anyway, it's a sleep podcast. He did it with Joe Rogan. And it's just like mind blowing when you hear the facts about what, limited sleep does to your brain and to your body. And I think everyone after listening to that goes, I need to sleep well.
How much do you sleep?
I try and get 7 to 8 hours, but I'm not a good sleeper. Like I wake up really early. But where I make the changes is I try and hop into bed early and, start early. So I'll be in bed by like 7:30, 8 p.m. sometimes.
What?
I know, but I'm in a 5-guy share house, and after I've had dinner at like 6:30, I'm like, I'm done.
Something to do.
Really?
Yeah, I
Guys
could
that jump
sit
on the
down.
Xbox, play Call of Duty.
Yeah,
What?
I got a TV in my room. I put on one of your sports documentaries and then just like kind of try and doze off. But then I'm up at like 5 or 4:50 every day. So
Oh, wow.
there's the knock-on effect. But yeah, getting to sleep early is the trick.
Yep. You're wearing an Apple Watch.
I am,
So
yes.
I'm going to pick on that for a second.
Go for it.
These days there's data overload, isn't there?
much.
Right? There's heaps of, everyone's got one of those on, they've got a Garmin on, they've
Whoop.
got this, they've got that, Whoop. There's heaps of data pumping through. From your perspective, when you're coaching your clients and when you're supporting people in achieving their health objectives, how much of your, I guess, strategy is data driven and how much of it is just listen to your body, feel it out kind of thing?
It's a good one. It's a hard one to say. I've been at the point where I've completely relied on data, and like I'd be, like data is everything, and I'd wake up, check my scores, and then like my day was dictated on the score that I got for my sleep. When in actual fact I felt fine. So I actually kind of go the other way with it. I wear this Apple Watch every day. I don't wear it to sleep, but I just use it for my running really. But I think particularly in this day and age, like people are becoming so obsessed over data when they really don't need to be. Like if you just get those fundamental factors right, like sleeping right, eating right, training properly, everything else will line up pretty smoothly. Now, where the data's good is like if you're doing all of those things and you're still some deficiencies, like I don't know why I'm not recovering properly. Well, let's check your sleep out. Your sleep scores are bad. That's where to fix it. But I'd say for the general like day-to-day person, it's probably not that necessary.
Yeah.
Because
you see people that really obsess over the data, that goes one step further into the whole calorie counting, and
Yeah.
then they're sitting there measuring out their meals.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like
That's not living.
They don't even do that. They got a
It
weight
annoys
scale
me,
there,
man.
this many grams. I'm having 15 peanuts and
Yeah.
a handful of granola. Come on, mate.
And
Live a little.
The issue with that like restrictive diet as well is like it goes so far back the
Yeah.
other way. So if you restrict for let's say a month, and you will make progress, no doubt. It's like the number one trick to weight loss is like counting your calories, unfortunately. But what happens on the other side of that is you felt restricted, so you go so hard the other way and you become in such a surplus. But yeah, it's not really living, is it? That way of life. I think in general, particularly with Instagram or social media, it's so easy to look at people like myself who are doing this from a day-to-day perspective, and it's like their whole lives. And then trying to do that yourself as someone who's got a 9-to-5 job and they're working and they've got a family and they're, trying to do other things as well. You need to have just like that common ground, like that middle balance. You don't need to go too far one way.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between running in the cold and in the hot?
I mean, I'd assume so. Yeah, in terms
sweat
of
more?
you sweat more.
Other
Your
than that,
heart
like,
rate
there
will
has
be
to be
up.
something
I'd
to
prefer
it.
to run in the cold personally. Like
Okay.
I run a lot better in the mornings than I do in the afternoons. But yeah, I'd imagine there would be some big differences.
Don't the joints hurt more in the cold? Or is that just me being old?
Maybe, but I think a good warm up.
I've never tried.
It's too cold. Get back in the cover and stuff.
Yeah, bugger that. No, it's fair. I'm not too sure.
Okay, do you do the ice bucket stuff?
Yeah. Every now and then. I don't think it does a whole lot for like
You reckon?
for recovery. Nah, I feel like the science around that is pretty spotty. Like if you feel great mentally, really good for you, but I don't think it helps your body recover that much. And if it does, it would be something that it's like such a small percentage that you could fix by just getting the right amount of protein in, if that makes sense.
Isn't it like it helps reduce inflammation, muscle recovery?
Apparently, I feel like some of that stuff's been debunked.
Okay.
They from what I've heard, it's more to do with the compression of the water on your body than that stops the inflammation, than like the cold.
Okay.
The cold exposure. But as well, there's a lot of science around training in the gym and then getting straight into an ice bath really bad for your body because you're stopping hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is your muscle recovering from the gym and then building. So if you're getting, hitting the weights and then hopping into an ice bath, you're actually stopping that process. So you're essentially just undoing all your hard work in the gym. Mm-hmm. So if you are doing ice baths, I mean, they're great for you. I think they're really good, but they say do them before the gym. And then you can do them after cardio, so after going for a run.
Right. Do you do cold showers?
Nah, no way.
Trying to see, how much of a junkie you are.
Yeah. Not
doing all that.
For me. I'd do it for every now and then, but not unless I really need to.
In preparation for this, I said this earlier this morning. I said, look, I went on to where everyone goes these days for research, ChatGPT.
Nice.
And I said, okay, I've got a fitness guy coming in on a podcast today. Give me a list of health fads, and let's try to debunk them.
Okay, love it.
He gave me a nice long list, but I'm going to throw a few out there, and let's see if we can sort of debunk some of these.
You don't have to give the disclaimer after every one of them.
Okay.
Like, you're not a scientist.
Yeah. I'm nervous. I'm already seeing the comments.
Okay, it's come up with one over here about the carnivore diet.
Ooh.
What's your take on the carnivore diet? Because I know a guy, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to give a name because he watches the podcast and he probably won't like me calling him out for this. This bloke, he's an avid runner, runs a lot of marathons. And he went from, I genuinely thought that he was probably dying of cancer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he looked normal.
Same.
He looked normal.
Same.
He looked unwell.
And then you see him like 2 months later, cheek shrunken in, becoming really skinny. Then 2 months later, I'm like, his bones are sticking out. I'm like, well, brother.
I actually got worried. I'm like, is everything okay?
I literally went to him one day. I'm like, do you need help?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm on a carnivore diet.
Really?
Oh, what is wrong with you, mate?
Crazy.
What's your take on this stuff?
Yeah, I think any diet thing is it's like person to person. So some people are lactose intolerant because of their genes and like, going back a long way, whereas some people are not. So a different diet will work for different people. So some people, veganism works for them. I don't know how, but it seems to work. Mm-hmm. Other people, carnivore diet. I think in general though, for the vast majority of us, a balanced diet is the trick. I don't understand how you could run marathons and be on a carnivore diet, because to run a marathon, you need carbohydrates. Like carbohydrates is what fuels your body. It gives you energy. I notice if I cut out carbs and then go for a run, I feel 50% more unfit than I normally would. Mm-hmm. So like cutting out carbs and only having protein, which is I think what a carnivore diet is, you're just sapping your body of that. But I mean, clearly it works for some people. I think those things are good for like weight loss. It's the same as keto.
Yeah.
It's like keto diets is you're only having fats so that your body goes into ketosis and then you burn fats, not carbs. It's like maybe it's good for a month, but then the second you go to a work lunch or on a date or whatever, then you kind of like you're a little bit stuck. So I think those things are good for like an acute change, a really quick change, but I don't think they're great for long term and longevity. And also the people, it's like, it's like veganism as well. It's like, how do you even live like that?
You hate vegans.
Yeah, my sister's actually vegan. I don't mind vegans, but like I just don't understand. Yeah, no, she's all right. She runs marathons, so she.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
We've actually ticked off a few over here. Keto over here, veganism over here. That's pretty good. Okay, let's talk about this other one. And this is pretty common. A lot of people talk about this. Intermittent fasting.
Ooh, nice.
Intermittent fasting. Have you tried it before? Does it work?
Yep, I do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't eaten yet today, and I'll probably won't eat until about 11 a.m. I love it because what I'm trying to do is eat in a calorie deficit. Like I'm trying to limit my eating so that I burn fat. I'm just in a phase where I'm trying to burn fat. And what that does is I'm limiting my window of eating so that...
Where's the fat?
These guys were lean.
He's trying to burn my fat. What's going on?
Trying to burn everyone's fat. But this is a good one for weight loss, is like by limiting your window of eating. So if I eat from 11 a.m. and then stop eating at 5 p.m., I'm going to feel a lot more satiated. I'm going to feel a lot more full in that time. Whereas if I ate from the second I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning and then my last meal was at 6 p.m., what's going to happen is that window of eating is going to be a lot wider. So I'm going to be craving food all the way through. So it's easy for me to wake up, went for a run, had a coffee, like a black coffee, and then I'll probably eat at like 11:30, 12. And then from there, I can eat what I need to eat up until 5:30, 6 p.m. And so in that time, I feel a lot more satiated. So I think intermittent fasting is really good for that. There's also, I think, stuff out there saying that it kind of helps burn bad cells in your body by starving them from like the first start of the day. So I'm pretty sure someone was out on podcast saying it's like cures cancer. I don't know if it goes that far, but apparently I think Andrew Huberman might have spoken about it, where it's kind of limits your body or cancer cells' ability to grow within your body because you're starving them. So I'm for it. I'm all for intermittent fasting.
So the last meal you had was last night at 6 p.m.
Yep.
And you didn't eat after 6 p.m.?
No, I try not to. Yeah.
They call that autophagy.
Autophagy. There you go. So that's the cancer. Yeah.
Breaks down all your bad cells, apparently.
Breaking down bad cells, autophagy. There's a Google for someone.
So you eat. This is where my diet plan gets completely derailed. I need to have a snack. I need a nibble.
So basically, as soon as you wake up, it's game over for you.
The window. No. The window's widened.
So walk me through this, right? So wake up. I've gone the opposite way of I've actually tried getting back into the gym. So
Nice.
go to the gym. I'm like, before I go to the gym, I have a banana.
Fair. That's right.
To give me a bit of a
great.
kick of some sort. Have that, or maybe a cup of black coffee or whatever it is. So that means what you put there, your eating window, mine's open right up. Because
Yeah.
I'm getting to the gym at 6:45 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. So my window opens 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not working for me.
And you're sparking insulin, so you're more hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm famished by now because I've had my
Yeah.
gym session, didn't have a protein shake. I'm hungry. Yeah. So when lunchtime comes around, I'm like, look, you know what? I need to eat something. And then because I sleep late and I have a knack of staying up a little bit, watch something, chill out with the kids or whatever it is. So end up having dinner a little bit later, and then I have this knack of snacking. So, and I generally tend to snack later at night, probably 9:30, 10 o'clock, even 10:30. So my eating window's humongously long.
I feel like that's just a normal person, to be honest.
Yeah,
I know,
it is.
I know,
It's
but
just
that's
a
what
normal
I'm.
person.
Yeah, I know, but I'm the guru over here who's trying to lose weight supposedly. How on earth do we shrink that practically? Because for us right
Yeah.
now, it's the average Joe. We're struggling.
No, for sure. Well, so I mean, like snacks is a difficult one. Soft drink, you want to cut out soft drink. I think
I
cutting
don't
out
drink soft drinks.
snacks is a good start as well. And then the other thing is like sauces on top of meals. So, people have like a salad and then put
Dressing.
dressing
Heaps of
over
dressing,
it, heaps of dressing. And then that's where the calories are climbing up. Like you could have an extra 2,000 calories by the end of the day just through sauces. But I mean, like, as you said, you've got kids, you've got a life. Unless you're trying to run the next Melbourne Marathon or be on stage for a bodybuilding contest, I don't recommend stressing about all that stuff too much. I think you want to do what feels right for you. Like you're needing your brain so much throughout the day, and carbs are good for that. And you want to fuel your body correctly to make sure that you can perform at your best throughout the day. If you're getting a few extra snacks and eating, your window of eating is a little bit longer, I think that's completely fine. But as a general, I always say like, try and cut out your snacking, obviously soft drinks as well, and then watch the sauces on top of that. And you should be making some pretty big progress through your diet just because of that.
So you say carbs are good for our brains when we're using them. What are some real examples that you can give of good, healthy carb snacks that Ali and I can have during the day while we're on the computer churning out work that won't hurt our bodies or won't knock our diets way out of whack?
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm still learning a lot about this. Like I've been researching it a fair bit lately in terms of like the GI and carbs. So I'm not even going to try and explain this because I don't understand it yet myself. But from what I know is like there's some forms of carbohydrates which are low GI, slower release. So throughout the day they will slowly release. Whereas a high GI kind of carbohydrate, let's say like like white bread, it's like a fast release. So it's a spike and you feel really good after it, but then you plummet after that. So what I've been trying to do lately is get kind of lower GI carbs such as oats, sweet potatoes, fruits are all really good. What else is like brown rice, basmati rice. So things like that are really good because they're lower GI, so they last for longer. Whereas if you have like a lunch, let's say you have lunch at 1 p.m. at work, you have this really high kind of carb white rice with something that's more high GI, you'll always get that crash after it. That's where people get that like 3 p.m. slump almost. So if you kind of manipulate your foods, if you're really have an important meeting at 3 p.m., then having some lower GI carbs is a really good decision, if that makes sense.
No, actually helps.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm still learning about it all, and it's a crazy world out there, the nutrition. But I think if you can just understand some basics and fundamentals, it does help you, and you don't have to be a bodybuilder or a runner to receive like the benefits from it. You can just be someone who's trying to function at a high level throughout the day.
There's one more over here that he and I are both guilty of. We actually tried this. He got me into it. We both did it. Probably regretted it. You don't remember this.
Here we go.
Detox cleanses. We went to a juice
Oh
cleanse.
no!
Remember this?
Oh no.
So Sherlock over
Put
here
an arm and
finds
leg
some
for
random
that.
company that does a juice delivery, and he
they all
gets
deliver.
onto it. So
'Cause you're too tired to pick it up.
Nice, and then they're supposedly good juices or whatever it is. And I don't know, 3 days or 4 days.
You pick
whatever
how
we
many
did.
days? 3, 4 days.
I think we've got a
5
3-day
days.
supply of this stuff. And I was like, I'm not doing it on my own. I got my wife onto it as well. I'm like, we're going to suffer together.
Nice.
So
You were in it
3
together.
days, all we had, like you had to go through, I think, 6 or 8 bottles a day of
think
this
8.
stuff. And each one had a different function. And you were just, how do I say this nicely? There was water coming out of everywhere. Because all you were putting in was water and it's detoxing your body. And I'm like, some of them tasted horrible. They smell horrible. This was bad. What's your take on this? Have you ever been stupid enough to do one of these things? And
He owns the company.
yeah. I love them. Yeah, use my code. So I mean, it depends why you're doing it. I don't really. People say they do like juice cleanses, like a weight loss thing. But all a juice cleanse does, or any other diet, something else could be like, where you have like a protein shake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then it's like you lose weight. And it's like this incredible. Oh my gosh, we lost weight. That's brilliant. What it's doing is putting your body in a calorie deficit. So if your body is in a deficit from calories, you're burning more than you're eating, you will lose weight. So that's why they work.
Yep.
So I don't know if you did the juice cleanse for like a weight loss thing or for like cleanse something out of your body. I don't know. But generally you get benefits from them from a weight loss perspective. But you can also get those benefits by just eating less. So it's the same thing. I don't know. I've never done a juice cleanse myself. I think juices,
I wouldn't recommend it.
yeah, it sounds awful. And juices are great to like have alongside a meal, but probably not for me. Not the juice
And they were
cleanse.
supplying 1 meal as well. That was
Yeah.
also water-based.
Yeah.
Soup.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thanks, man.
That sounds awful. Why would you
horrible.
do that? How long
we
did you do
went,
it
we
for?
went cold turkey. Like today I'm eating a normal meal. Tomorrow, bang, there's no food. It's just
Yeah.
liquid.
Completely changed.
That's brutal.
And after the cleanse, I'm like, I'm getting a Big Mac.
yeah.
Get me a
ruined it
Big
all.
Mac. Well, that's the thing as well. That's the same as like counting calories. That's always the end result. Is like that feeling of I need to go so hard the other way.
Yeah.
Like you stay really disciplined for 4 days and then you just blow out on the weekend, and it kind of contradicts itself.
I think that's the biggest issue, man. A lot of
Yeah.
people, I've faced this as well. There was a time where recently you saw me like lose a lot of weight, right? I got food poisoning. So I wasn't eating for like a month, 2 months. I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling good. I dropped down 10, 12 kilos.
Nice.
Everyone's like, oh, you look good, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks, man. And then I'm like, I'm going to maintain this. A couple of weeks later, I'm a fat ass again. It's just like, because I went on this hungry eating phase because I
Yeah.
missed
Yeah.
out on so much.
You overcompensate.
Yeah.
I
man.
overcompensate,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
every time.
It's
That and
crazy.
the barley belly, it's the quickest way to lose
Yeah,
weight.
this guy was
Yeah.
probably having a juice cleanse down there in
Yeah.
Zimbabwe himself.
Stand back.
Is that all your debunking done, Mother?
I've got more, but I wanted to talk a bit more about another challenge that he and I face because of all the work-related travel that we have. I think this is our 15th trip for the year coming up. It's
Wow.
it's very hectic.
Yeah.
what have you seen, either with yourself or with other clients that you work with or whatever it is, around how to maintain? Like, it's a lot easier when we're at home, got our own sort of infrastructure around us, meals at home, gym access and all that kind of stuff. When you travel, it sort of derails the whole thing. Because you're
Your
there.
body's on a different time.
You're in the plane, you're eating plane food, you're in airport lounges, eating whatever they serve you over there, you're going to hotels, whatever's there available to you. So it's very, very hard to structure all that. Any points and tips that you can give us? We're flying out on Thursday, and I've, for the last maybe 2 months, made a conscious effort, lost a bit of weight, got onto the right track. I don't want to blow it up over this next trip. How do I keep it on track?
Yeah.
And I've got some bad influences around me.
Yeah. Good luck. I think so. A big thing on planes is hydration, like loss of hydration.
Okay.
So apparently your body loses something like a liter of water an hour on a plane. Obviously, it's diminishing returns because your body doesn't have 24 liters of water just sitting there. But you want to keep your hydration up. That's a really good start. The other thing I've heard is kind of dialing yourself into the time zone that you're going to. So instead of eating necessarily, which is tough because you want to eat the plane food, like instead of eating to the time of where you were going from, you want to eat to the time zone of where you're going to.
Okay.
So that's another one. Another thing I've heard is really good, really tough to do. I haven't done it myself. Is literally just fasting on the plane and not eating because your body holds onto carbs a whole lot more in that environment. So where you can, not eating, or just limiting carbs.
I did that on my last flight back from Jakarta to Melbourne. Didn't eat a thing. Felt great after the
Feel
flight.
great, yeah. And you reset so much faster. But it's tough to do, especially when you're sitting there, you're watching movies, the plane food comes out, it smells incredible.
Nothing to do.
Yeah.
Nothing
else to do than eat.
Yeah.
Also, like, you know, like the airport lounges and stuff, if you look at their food, it's literally 99% carbs.
Yes.
It's like the bread rolls,
Yep.
pastas.
Pasta, yeah.
It's so satiating. It feels amazing, but it's literally the worst thing to eat, you know, for before you fly. So maybe trying to go the more protein route of like some meat or like some salad. Those would be my
while you're in the
recommendations.
air, you lose a lot of fluids.
Yeah.
So you can't even digest it properly because you need fluids to digest it, right?
Exactly. And then you get
so you're just in a
bloating and
big
all-
pickle.
And they give you like a little pipette of water.
It's like an
Yeah,
insult.
yeah.
every 4 hours. You're kidding.
It's terrible.
What am I meant to do with
Yeah.
this? Yeah, I shot
One
it.
goal. Yeah.
You love running so much, you created an app.
Yeah.
Interval, right?
Yeah,
And there's a lot of apps out there,
there is.
right? A lot of people create their own apps. I don't know if there's like a white label solution that everyone subscribes to and put their logo. I don't know, but there's so many apps out there. Can you tell us, honestly, what makes your app the best app out there?
So
If it is the best.
Yeah. Well, I believe it is, of course. So I have a running app. It's called Interval. It's not a white label. I built it alongside my housemate, who's a developer. He built
Right.
it all. I wasn't doing the ones and zeros, but he's created from the ground up. It's not a white label. And so what it is it's a running app aimed at kind of making running progression accessible to the everyday person. And the whole point behind that is through programming, and we can kind of manipulate the programming along the way to make it feel kind of really easy and achievable for someone like my mum, who has done it, and she's running really well, or my sister, who's made it to a marathon. So inside the app, we've got programming, we've got a full community section as well, and then also like a full me section. And we're building out kind of a gamification side of the app, which is like a run club finder and then a few games to come as well. So with all of that put together, we have gamified running, and we've just made running a lot more achievable for the everyday person. I don't believe there's anything out there that is kind of more achievable for someone to do than my app, which is called Interval. So I suppose that's like our point of difference is the achievability aspect. There's a lot of apps out there, but they're so difficult. Like I barely even understand what they're saying, and I've been running for 5+ years. So I can never expect how my mum could do that. But we've had a few cool things released lately in like a run club finder. So obviously a big thing at the moment are run clubs, and people are struggling to get into those communities without kind of just like they don't know how to find them or message them. So we've created on the app like this sphere where you can go to any location or any city and click on a run club. It'll have the details of the run club, the days that they run, how you can message them, etc. So that's one side of it. And then as well as that, we've got a game coming out, which is going to be called Terra, which is essentially if I run around the block, then I own that space. But if you run through it, then you own that space. And we're going to look to really build that out. So that's been built and ready to go.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like a bit like Pokemon Go,
Yeah, I was
except for
literally going
running.
to say that.
You've
The
got
gyms.
gyms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty cool.
So that's actually why we created this Run Club Finder, was so that we could have clubs mode. But then we were like, hang on, this is actually a really good tool for anyone in the running community. So we've done that. The app's going really well. Like we've been live for 9 months. And I'm sure you guys have experienced as well, but like breaking into the Australian culture for doing something different has been one of the most tough things ever. Just like straight away, people are like, nah, tear it down.
Yeah.
You don't have a degree, and it's like, no, well, actually, all the programs have been made by sports and exercise scientists to mitigate that problem. And then they're like, no, well, you can't do it because and it's like, well, you can, and you can build something and you can do something different. So the last 9 months has been a whirlwind of like launching an app and becoming more than just a content creator, becoming, a businessman, and trying to mitigate the Australian culture is always fun.
Yeah. No, we find that as well. Changing user behavior, getting people to be open-minded enough to explore solutions that you're presenting to them. And deep down, that what you're delivering is really solid. But getting them to get past their own assumptions or whatever it is, or they're so stuck in their ways, is challenging. And unfortunately, it's usually the people with the deepest pockets that win, because they can, that war of attrition, they can just be there and advertise and promote and continue to sort of condition people for longer than anybody else can. So...
Yeah, and I think as well, like, because my stuff's quite public in terms of, if I announce I'm launching an app, well, I'm announcing that to 200,000 people, so there can't be any holes in it. And when we announced we were launching, like, I'd like this a good runner put us up on their story. And it's like, don't go to this, just like another influencer app, just shouting out. It's like, you don't even know what the app is.
That happened?
Yeah. We called them
right.
out straight away.
Okay.
It's like, hang on, no, we've checked everything. Like just because it's like an example I use is, you don't rip into Janine Ellis because she created Boost Juice, just because she wasn't there, making juices every single day. Like she created the company and the business and got professional nutritionists and juice makers in to do that side of things. That's the exact same with my app. Like I've built the app alongside my housemate, but we've got professionals in to do the programming and to do the physio stuff in there and to talk about nutrition. So yeah, we've cross-checked all
This
that.
running club sounds like a dating app as well.
Yeah. You could meet a girl at
there is a
run.
social side to it.
Yeah,
Has it
absolutely.
happened? Has it happened?
I think so. Yeah, I have a little run club, and I haven't seen necessarily the dating side, but like there's been groups who came to the first run club who are now like all best mates, and they just constantly catch up. So it's a great spot to meet people. But the running world can be a little bit cliquey and tough to break into, so that's why we've created this run
How many
club.
downloads are there, if you don't mind me asking?
Downloads, I think we've had about 6,000 or 7,000.
Not bad.
So our first launch was like an MVP, and trying to kind of roll that out with like, what can we launch where we have the ability to pull in money and people are still getting some benefit out of it, but it's not necessarily our final product. And that was really strong. It went really well. And then recently we had JTB Studios, which is like a design studios, come through and redo all of the design on it. And they've essentially iOSified it. They've made it look a lot more like an Apple product, and it's picked up a lot in
Yeah, I was looking at it. I didn't
downloads.
download the app yet.
That's
I'm
okay.
not much of a runner.
Yeah.
Right. But let's say I want to get into running, because I'm still paying for my gym membership. I still want to get into my health. Maybe look into some running as well. There were times I downloaded not running apps, but gym apps. Right. I downloaded multiple. But the thing that really annoys me are the paywall.
Yeah.
Do you have a paywall?
Yeah, so we've got a 7-day free trial, and
Yeah.
then there's a paywall comes up because we need to make money somehow. I wish we could do it for free, but our pricing is a lot more competitive than anyone else in the world. But yeah, so a 7-day free trial, and then you'll create a program with that. And the program will tailor to you. So our programming is different from other apps in that we don't just set you on a 24-week program, you're good to go. After every run, you'll get asked how you feel, how's your stress, how's your body feeling, and you'll answer that question. It's just a quick slider. It literally takes 10 seconds. And then with that information, we're able to understand which plan you're on, and then maybe if you're finding it too hard, for the next week we'll put you onto an easier plan, and then if you're finding that too easy, you'll go into a more difficult one. So it constantly changes and adapts to you, whereas a lot of kind of other apps, it's just like a 24-week plan. This is what you're on. If you're finding it too hard, unlucky. So that's kind of where we can adapt. But yeah, the paywall thing's a tough one. I wish we could do it for free.
Yeah.
Because that's like every time I download an app, I get why, because I do the trial. I'm like, it's not very beginner friendly. A lot of these apps,
Yeah.
they're very hardcore. I mean, when you do the beginning one, they tease you such a small thing, and they're like, hey, just pay up, and then we'll give you the rest, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say someone downloads the app and they want to get into running. Right. Let's say me and Mazza, we haven't run for God knows how many years. Right. And we download your app. It's beginner friendly, I'm
Yeah,
assuming,
it
because you
is.
said
Yeah, yeah.
your mum could jump on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But explain as a new beginner.
Sure.
Right. We're getting into running. How would we go about it? Explain all that to us.
in terms of like through the app or
through
just
the
in
app.
general?
Let's
Yeah,
go
sure.
through the app. Use that as a selling
I mean,
point.
it's both. So, I mean, from an app perspective, like you'll download the app and then you'll get asked some onboarding questions. And that's kind of where it's pretty important, because if you answer those correctly, you will get the correct plan to start.
Right.
But if you answer them like you can run a marathon and, you're a world marathon runner, then you're going to get a much more difficult plan. So answering those honestly and truthfully will dictate the type of plan that you get. So let's say you do that, you answer the questions, you'll get put onto the app and like the interface, and you'll be able to pick which day you start running. And then you have your run ready to go. So you can kind of click on that run and go out there. I think the first one on the beginner plan is 500 meters or 400 meters of jogging. So it's pretty achievable. Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole point behind that is building up, as I said before, like building up your body so that you can withstand, like cardiovascularly, most people can run 500 meters, no doubt, but often their muscles can't. They get shin splints, they get, other long-term injuries, which just ruins their running world. So we start very slow and very small and then slowly build up as we go. And then on top of that, like the programming's periodized, which is essentially it'll go through waves of difficulty. So it's not always just on the, up and right of the scales of the graph. It'll go harder and then it'll back off and give your body a chance to recover. It'll go harder again and it'll back off again. So it's stuff that like I don't ever want to have to think about when I'm training. Most people don't want to think about, but my coach, who is a sports and exercise scientist, he loves that stuff. So let him deal with that. But essentially you do your run and then you'll have the option to post that run into a community section, which I recommend doing, because the community section is like, we guarantee there's someone in there who is at your ability. You guys can communicate if you want or not, but at least you're seeing there's other runs in there where it's like, oh, I'm at that level and I'm not actually that far off the pace, and it can create some healthy competition. So that's essentially the app. And then we've got, a whole lot of things where you can upload it on social media with different tiles, build through like an XP system and so on.
On social media, I'm sure we've all seen this. There's a big push towards, you don't need a coach, you don't need a trainer, you don't need anybody. AI will give you a workout. AI will design your work plan, all that kind of stuff. So as a new young entrepreneur with your app and everything else, do you feel that creates a bit of a headwind for you and say, okay, well, how do I overcome this challenge? Because that's what everyone's going to face. This entire PT industry that's going around
100%.
is now quickly going to get a really good reality check to say, well, I can't just go and make money off people by having a crash course in fitness. That's what they do. You go to the gym. There's a PT training coming up. Last intake for the year. Go in there. Yeah. Within 12 weeks, you're out and you have a certificate and you're able to
Cert 1, 2. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is quite ludicrous because it's a very, very low bar to get in to actually direct people on their health and their well-being. Like, you stuff them up. They're stuffed, but hey, I don't know. And now AI has now jumped in, put its hat in the ring and said, look, well, I can train you as well. How do you counter that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the same. You will never beat a one-on-one coach. Like, my app is not a one-on-one coach, but for every person in the world, you will never get better than someone who you can talk to every single day, who's qualified, and they can change your plan accordingly. Interval, or a lot of running apps out there, are the next best thing for that. I don't think AI is at the point yet where they can adapt to kind of what you want and who you are. Like, I don't think there's a platform out there for it. Now, that is nerve-wracking to some respects, but I don't think it's going to change people's like behavior in terms of the encouragement they need. So like anyone can go on ChatGPT and say, give me a running program. Not everyone has the motivation or the want to be able to do that. So I'd say it's a very small subsection of people who are going to be shifted because of that. But it's the same as like the payment thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize that actually paying is what's making you go out there and run. So if you're paying for a subscription, you're like, oh, I better do it because I paid the $17 a month and like it'll make sense. I'd say it's similar to having like a community inside an app. as well as like a coach who's kind of changing the program for you. Those factors are kind of what motivates people. So yes, AI is scary, but I think it can also be like our friend, particularly inside the app in terms of like coaching messages and stuff.
It's a good point you make, because that notion of accountability, right? I'm sure we're all the same as well. If we're accountable for something, and that's where a coach comes in really handy, because okay, this person's waiting for me in the gym at 6:30 a.m. I need to rock up.
Does shit out of me.
Yeah. Otherwise, and for those who don't have a coach, can then have a community and say, look, you know what? I've got a running club, I've got a running group. Everyone's getting together at 7 a.m. this morning to go for a run. I can't be the last person there. I can't be the one who's absent 3 out of 5 sessions a week.
100%.
Because I look like the loser. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. So, if not for myself, at least to save face, for example, it'll push me to do stuff.
Yeah.
That accountability component is really important.
Well, they say the hardest part's putting your runners on and getting there.
Yeah.
Like once you're there, it's so easy. It was, that's my session this morning is with my mates, and we all just go like, no one wants to get there in the cold, early, Melbourne weather. But once you're there, it's like, oh, this is actually all right, and you keep going. It's like that. I'd say 98% of the people that I give a free account to, who are like friends and family of mine, to the app, won't do it. But if I make them pay, I guarantee they'll do it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how that, like, just the psychology behind that. And then on top of that, like churn and canceling your subscription, a lot of people associate that to like you've given up.
Yeah.
So they won't like cancel that subscription, which is obviously great as an app owner. But they're more encouraged to go out there if they've had that, they've paid, or they've got someone waiting for them at the gym or at the running track. So it's a good thing to think about. And, I've always said like motivation, it comes and goes. Like you cannot rely on motivation for your fitness or for anything in life, because one week we're motivated, you have a cup of coffee, you're super motivated, you have a good sleep, you're motivated, but discipline is where it comes into. And discipline's really hard to come by, but if you can stick with discipline, then you're good to go and you keep showing up.
Lastly, if you don't mind, Prime Train.
Yeah.
He was on our pod.
Oh, cool.
Right, nice guy, lovely guy. He's also fit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has any fat to lose, but he's fit as well.
Yeah, he's lean.
But how do you guys what do you guys do together?
So he's a housemate of mine.
He's a housemate.
Yeah,
of yours?
we live together.
No way.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
fit house.
That's
It's a very like fitnessy house. You can imagine how intense it is.
Imagine me and you living there, Mazan. Just two slobs.
You know what?
Chips at
I have-
11 a.m. 11 p.m.
There's no pizzas there. There's no Big Macs. There's nothing.
But imagine how far you take the business. You can just grind every day, all day, every day. That's the thing in our house. So like I live with my developer. I got Prime Train in there as well. We got another guy, Charlie Crozier, who runs Volley, which is like a volunteering kind of platform. And then Nathan Freeman as well, who does the Breath House. So there's like there's four relatively
That's a powerhouse.
going well
Yeah.
businesses in there. And we're not a party house by any means. Like all our conversations are focused around like growing and developing and how we can all kind of level up in some respects. Now that can get pretty toxic at times. It's a little bit intense, but I just go to my girlfriend's house if it's too much. But living with Prime Train is fun. He's a ball of energy, as you'd know, and just always positive. And I think I could honestly live with him for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
My girlfriend wouldn't be happy about that.
Is that house clean? I'm starting to like.
It is.
It's
Yeah,
clean?
it relatively. I mean, ups and downs. But as I said, it's not like we're, getting on the piss every weekend and like having house parties and trashing it. So we're pretty, we're all pretty like-minded. And also a lot of us, 3 of us work from home. So like you're in that space all the time. I hate things being dirty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's taken a bit of time. Like I've lived with Tom for 2 or 3 years now, I think. And his arc of being a housemate has really improved. Like I'd say, and he'd agree, he won't hate me saying this, but when he first moved in, he would I actually remember him like, he didn't have the ability to think like, maybe for others or just in general if he was doing one task. So he'd get out of the car, he was on the phone once, got out of the car still running, opened his car door, walked from the street to the house, left the house door open and just like walked up to his bedroom. I'm like, mate, what? And he's like, oh, I was on the phone. It's like, what? How's that but he's elite now. He's, the
What
tidiest
does
of
he
the
do
house.
at the house that you really hate? There has to be something.
I don't know. Oh, he doesn't. He's pretty noisy at times. Like the only thing would be, even that he's good. I'd say, 6 months ago, I would have said like if he's up very early in the morning, so is the rest of the house.
Okay.
But now he's much more he cares for others. So I don't really have an answer for you. Sorry, I'm trying to think what goes on in the house that's like interesting. Here's one for we'll do a weekly weigh-in sometimes as a house because we're all fitnessy. So we're like we may as well do it all together. So on a Monday morning, we jump on the scales and go, ooh,
Biggest loser.
yeah, it's we call it Brighton's biggest loser. But
Who's the out of all of you guys? Who's the most hungry for success? Or are all of you on the same field?
I'd say all of us are on the same level. Yeah, all of us are on the
you guys
same
all
level.
push each other. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'd say it's really healthy though. Like there's enough kind of pie for everyone to have a bit. So if someone else in the house is leveling up, it's actually really beneficial for me. For example, let's say Charlie goes and gets these great connections on a work trip. Well, he's probably going to hand those connections or, introduce me to those connections as well. It's same with like if someone is gaining more followers. So it's actually a really good thing because I feature a lot on Tom's socials regardless. So as a collective, we're actually, it's actually the best house. I'm well aware, I keep saying it to the boys, I'm well aware this is like some of the best times of my life that I'll ever have. These few years that I'm living right now are incredible. So I'm very, very
Do you guys
lucky.
actually not like play Call of Duty together or something?
Not Call of Duty, we have a...
Sounds like a fun gaming.
because you obsess
Just
over
the
it.
potential of it.
Seriously.
Just imagine the potential.
They go for a run.
Yeah,
FIFA,
5
They
yeah.
want to
guys.
go for a run.
Oh,
okay?
that
No,
sounds
we
so
have
fun.
a table tennis table and a pool table,
Oh,
and that gets
God.
like I'd say every 2 hours in the house there's a tournament going on because like people will do work and then all right, done enough work, go play ping pong, but yeah, and a gym as well. So we hit the gym together.
Any last questions from you, Azan?
All good.
Well, Louis, do you have any last advice for anyone?
None. I
None.
don't have any last advice. Go download Interval.
Download Interval.
Yeah.
Do you use it?
Yeah, I do. I use it to train for
Don't
my
lie.
marathon.
100%
Recent marathon, 100%.
use it.
Everything.
Alright.
It's
Alright.
all on the socials. You guys can check it out.
But Lux, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for
It's
having
been a
me,
good
guys.
chat. Thanks for the laughs.
Thanks.
It's great insight, and thank you for the disclaimers as well that you're not a
Yeah.
sports
Oh,
scientist.
they'll still come
but,
for me, mate. The running community.
But look, thank you so much. Honestly, we wish you the best,
Thank
and
you.
I hope Interval blows up even more, and you guys
Appreciate
you
it.
do so well.
Thanks so much,
But
guys.
thank you so much for your time, and hope you enjoyed.
I
being
loved
on
it.
here.
This was great.
Nah, thank you.
I
thank you.
really enjoyed it.
But,
Thanks so much for the
I think
questions.
we did well, Mazza. We haven't done it in a few weeks.
For two rusty old fellas, yeah.
I think we've done all right.
Okay.
And I don't think we're both going to run in time soon.
Oh,
I might get you on Interval. Thanks
But
for listening.
yeah, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast. If you guys did, give us a like, subscribe, give us a comment. It means the world to us. On that note, we'll see you guys in the next one.